Hi there, me again. In today's video, we're going to be continuing my series where I go through my entire process of shooting, developing, scanning, and printing film photos, and we're going to be talking about the scanning aspect today, and I get to show you guys my new-to-me film scanner, which is the Nikon Coolscan V. So let's start at the beginning of Nikon's scanning journey. In 1993, Nikon introduced the original Coolscan film scanner, and they continued making iterations and advancements in their Coolscan lineup until 2003, when their advancements culminated in 3 scanners being released side by side. And that was the Nikon Coolscan V and the Nikon Super Coolscan 5000 and 9000. So the Nikon Coolscan V is a dedicated 35mm film scanner, so you can't scan 120 film with it, but if you are primarily a 35mm shooter, you can get some very, very sharp results from this scanner because it has an output of 4000 dpi optical resolution. On top of just straight up resolution, this scanner has an autofocusing scanning head, and that is connected to an ED lens, or an extra low dispersion lens, which is supposed to be really good at combating color fringing, especially at super, super close distances, which is essential for film scanning. That extra low dispersion lens projects your scan onto a 3900 64 pixel CCD sensor, which gives a very flattering look to film scans, especially when you compare that to the CMOS sensors of today. This scanner also runs on a simple USB connection, which is much easier to connect to modern computer systems than the FireWire that's found in the Super Coolscan line. Also, this scanner has 14-bit color, I believe, which is not quite the color standard that we're used to nowadays, but when you combine it with that CCD sensor, you get really, really pleasing scans, and I really haven't noticed much of a difference when editing my scans. Another fun and interesting design aspect of the Coolscan and Super Coolscan line is they are compatible with these different scanning head adapters, which all have different use cases, so let's go over those now. First, there's the MA21 adapter, which is what you usually see attached to a Coolscan V when you're looking to buy one, and that one is for mounted slides. There's also the SA21 adapter, which I also have and came with my scanner, and this is probably the most desirable scanning adapter because it will scan strips of film anywhere from 2 to 6 frames long. If you have just a single frame of film that you need to scan, or you have super curly strips of film, you might need the FH3 adapter, which goes into the MA21 adapter and keeps your film super flat and also allows you to scan just a single frame if that's what you need to do. Also, for the Super Coolscan line, there's the SA30 adapter, which actually allows you to scan a full roll uncut, and it actually pops the film roll out of the back of the scanner, which is kind of cool, but it's only compatible with the Super Coolscan line of scanners. Alright, so now that we've gone over the Coolscan and its features, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I scan my negatives using the Coolscan and Silverfast 9. So let's get into it. So for this demonstration, I'm going to be using one of my favorite frames that I've taken recently, and that's from a trip to Oklahoma City and the Myriad Botanical Gardens. So I'm going to get that dusted off there. When I insert the frame, insert it glossy side up, which is kind of opposite of what you do with most flatbed scanners. And once it's inserted, you'll see there's a little drop down menu here, and you can scroll up and down. Down at the bottom is a overview section, so I always start with that. Then once you open that, it will automatically take up your film strip and generate kind of a preview of all the frames. once it's done that, I'll make sure the frames are all centered. Okay, now that all of them are kind of in the right spot, then the scanner will know where to place them as it's scanning through. So once you've got this where you want it, just click the frame you want. In this instance, we're going to click frame 1 and then hit OK, and then it will generate a preview scan. This scanner makes some very fun early 2000s noises, which is pretty funny. So now that I've got my preview blown up here, I'm going to run through all the Silverfast settings that I usually use. In case you haven't used Silverfast before, I think it gets really good results and really good colors, and I just kind of like the interface. So basically where I start is if I'm scanning one single frame, I will select the file name here and the location where I want to save it. But if I'm batch scanning, once I've got the settings dialed in, I'll hit batch scan and name the files here so that they have a sequential file structure. But we're just doing one single file this time, so I'm going to name this one Myriad Botanical Gardens. And I always save as a TIFF, and when I'm scanning color negative film, I have it set as a transparency, negative, 48 to 24-bit color, and it's always on scanning the entire frame, which is this red outline here. Next is for the resolution. So if you're in Silverfast, whatever scanner you're using, you'll see this bar that fades from green to red. And where it's green is where the optical resolution is of the scanner. So as you get up here, this is the max. And then once it turns red, Silverfast will use software to try and enhance the resolution. So for this scanner, we can scan at 4,000 pixels per inch, which is crazy. I think Epson V600 will only scan at 1600, so a little less than this, which renders probably a 4x6 inch print. It shows the output here of what your print will output at without losing really any quality. And at 4000 ppi, like this scanner can do, you can easily print a 19x12, which is amazing for a 35mm negative. So I'm really happy that I can do that. Usually for videos, I'm just scanning at 2000 ppi because I think that is plenty for web, but we're going to scan like this today just so you can kind of see a comparison, hopefully, with YouTube's compression. So once I've got the PPI set, we can scroll down here. I don't really do anything with the densometer, but you can if you know how to work a densometer for your film density. Here, for color, I don't really mess with the midtone, contrast, and saturation, but I have noticed with this scanner that black and white film sometimes comes out overexposed, so messing with the midtone and contrast can help with that, but color, I haven't had any problems. Now we move on to Negafix, which is probably my favorite feature of Silverfast, and it has a lot of different presets that you can choose from. So you can go in and you can choose the exact film you were using, or what I like to do is I have a couple of presets that I think work really well with some certain films. So this is Fuji 400 or Kodak Ultramax, but I really like to scan Ultramax and Fuji 400 as Kodak Supra, so I think that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes it just depends on the frame, which Supra I really like. I think 800 honestly looks the best, but I'm going to look at some other ones here while we're here. That one's a little too green. 200 is a little too magenta. Royal Gold 400 is pretty good. Pro Image is pretty good, but a little bit contrasty for my liking. Something I also do when I can't make up my mind is I'll just hit Other, and that just kind of gives you a good base. And this honestly looks pretty good, but I think I liked Kodak, not Konica, Kodak Royal Gold 400. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go with that. I think that looks pretty similar to my original scan that I did with the Epson. So we're going to run with that. And after that, I add ISRD. So there's ISRD and SRDX. ISRD is optical-based infrared dust detection, and this scanner has that capability. It has digital ice. Any scanner that has digital ice can use ISRD, but ISRD does not work on black and white film. So if you're scanning black and white film and you want to get some dust removal, you can use SRDX instead, which is a software-based dust removal. But we're going to scan actual infrared dust removal on this scan here. What I've noticed with the Nikon Coolscan is the grain is so sharp that I think it kind of confuses the software, and if you just use the automatic correction on ISRD, it doesn't work too well. So what I like to do is set it to mark, uncheck automatic, and use detection size 1. So I'm going to use the high quality view here so that you can kind of see what this is doing. Okay, so now the high quality scan is done and we can see what the dust detection is doing. So this is set to mark and detection size 1. If I check automatic, which sets it to 17, this starts selecting a lot of grain and finding imperfections that aren't really there. Like you can see right here, this looks like a water spot, but it's also picking up little chunks of grain, which is going to make this look muddy and really not very good. So if we reduce it back down to 1, there's a lot less of that happening, and it's still actually picking up the real imperfections that are there. So that's why I like to scan with those settings on this particular scanner. And now that we've got Negafix selected and our resolution selected and ISRD selected, we can go ahead and scan it. And actually, since I've done the high quality scan preview, it's going to scan pretty much instantly. So all I have to do is make sure the name is correct, that's what I want, and the path where I want them to export to is correct, and we're going in the right folder. So I just have to hit scan up here, and it's almost done. And that's very fast. It goes a little bit slower if you're not using the high quality preview, but that's okay. It still, I think, scans a little bit faster than the Epson V600. So now that we've scanned this one, I'm going to go through and scan 10 or so more images so that we can compare them to the Epson versions. So I spent the next hour or so digging through my archives, picking out frames to scan, dusting off negatives, and messing with the settings in Silverfast. And I have to say, I really enjoyed myself. The whole scanning process was much less fiddly with the Coolscan, and feeding the film strips into the scanner is much more satisfying than I was expecting. When you compare the results, the difference in detail is really noticeable. This is really nice, especially when looking at the little details like signs that sometimes add an extra level of immersiveness to the scenes I photograph. Also, any extra detail you can get out of your scans can really make a difference when printing. These comparisons are really just meant to highlight the difference in detail. I didn't spend too much time color grading the Nikon scans, so the colors and tones are slightly different, but the files are very flexible. The rest of these scans are from a trip I took to Tybee Island, Georgia. There's a full video about that trip on my channel if you want to check it out. So that's about it for my video about my new Nikon Coolscan V. Hope you guys found this video interesting and maybe informational if you're looking for a really nice scanner to scan your 35mm film. And I would definitely recommend this scanner to anybody who has maybe a little bit more of a budget than for something like an Epson V600, because you will get much sharper results from this scanner. So in my next video, I think I kind of want to do a metering video, because I did actually get a new light meter that I haven't talked about really. So I think that might be fun to do a little metering tutorial about how I meter scenes both in daytime and in night scenes. So yeah, maybe keep a lookout for that in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now.